Welcome back to possibly the final part in our week 2 digital lecture series, taking questions, and I'm covering some from Kirsten as we round third base here. And the next question I did copy over initially. It brings up that Berger excerpt again about the statistics of young people in reading, and really upon reflecting again that I had mentioned. Not only have I tackled this excerpt in a previous lecture, but I mentioned that consistent theme that many of you picked up on it. So I don't want to take away from where other time can be spent since we've tackled that subject. But ultimately, all right. Berger 2012 stated that, quote, 32% of American teenagers have never read, and that only 50% sometimes read, end quote, from page 23. And that this leads to an inability to think critically or understand complex issues. Question: does using digital content to teach reading and comprehension contribute to this or negate this problem? Is that what are we referring to here, right? Are we being called out here in this online educational setting? I don't think that's the case. I think we're just stimulating conversation, right? Does using digital content to teach and reading to contribute to the problem? All right, so the issue lies with digital content, right? And so I'm going to remove our present context to hopefully make it more exterior so that we can look at it from a distance, so that we're able to exclude bias. We're thinking about tablets and youth, right? Children, a lot of educational tools are being put onto tablets, and as part of this, giving young people digital literacy. And some very young people I know in my own life happen to have these types of tools and resources and are being taught that at an early age in school. Here is something interesting, because we know because we're human, right? And when we're truly honest is where we learn the most about ourselves. But I've firsthand observations seen where, this is just like Sim Farm, right? Some of you all grew up in that era, right? Whether you didn't have to be in ag or FFA or whatever, but it helped to be in tech ed, and they might have Sim Farm on the computers, and this was quote unquote counting as learning, and they're sitting there playing the sim game, right? You can Google that for those of you, right, completely out of the loop there. SimCity, the original. But this idea of something can be an educational tool, but do we use and do that for education? And I've just recently, like we're talking quarantine time, checking out young people using tech resources as part of their curriculum in early childhood education. And it was a kind of a game-based reward system, right? So you complete the math problems, you get rewards. You complete, more problems or complex problems, you get quote unquote, coins or money or some kind of like reward, like digital reward, of course, that can be used to barter within a type of online game. And the sole focus became acquisition of coins and what they could be spent on, right? And I don't know where the math problem is in the game. I'm no longer understanding where the education is happening, because we're just getting urgent about spending, these digital coins on things. And so how quickly we do get sidetracked. This is the same problem when we talk to students about research at a very fundamental level, and we say you don't just go to Google, right, Yahoo, Bing, whatever, and start quote unquote researching your topic, right? I can't even check. I can't even get onto my phone to look at my work calendar to see what meeting's coming next, because the first thing I'm going to get some pop-up memos, which I try to keep turned off, and then that's going to send me to onto social media, and now I'm scrolling for the next 35-40 minutes and losing time. And so we all of us are susceptible to that. So it does come at a price. That is why digital media literacy is important. Another course we run in the 2000 levels in the communication, media, and ethics degree at MacU sometimes we got to know ourselves, right? To before we can lead and point our finger at others. And I'm paraphrasing from some giant leadership training, which Mac you can also teach. Of course, work in that, but that is to say, it's a trap, right? Redundant. I already used that today. It just came out. Forgive me. Is it the medium that is the problem or something else? And this is chicken and egg stuff, right? We created the medium, and then we blame the medium. We're going to get into some deep classic sci-fi here in a minute on that one. I'm reminded of The Matrix Reloaded, really. Okay, next question. McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan? The medium is the message? McLuhan's definition of hot and cool media was born in a different era, and today our phones are used for much more than verbal conversations. Do telephones still qualify as cool media? I think it's an excellent question. I think you're getting at something incredibly important, and absolutely, as referenced before, I'll just repeat it. That hot and cool media is a really important way of theorizing, right? Just creating theorizations. In other words, explanations and interpretations of human behavior and our engagement with information and technology and how we communicate in the world and how we create communication mediums. It was very relevant in its time, but the hot and cold, it's tricky, right? It can be slippery even to try to conceptualize in 21st century when everything has become convergent, as Henry Jenkins would say, convergent culture. And so we have to be careful there. I think it's a rich, wonderful historical term in media history. I don't know. I can't commit to it as that go-to, term that you want to master in order to best understand and explain how mass media works. And I think your example of television is spot on for demonstrating that how the more complex our individual technologies become, the more separation there is between maybe the way we used to think about them. And we know this already, right? We know there's a difference between the landline phone and and what we're doing with smartphone technologies and how we're able to reach out. We have supercomputers in our pockets, and we forget this. And so we should be putting those bulky, protectors on them, because my goodness, so much of us is invested in these items, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, is irrelevant. It is what it is. We can use, so is the telephone's temperature changing? Or are the objects we consume through the phone's subsets? Okay, sure, absolutely. You're on the right path. These are great assertions, Kirsten. Jennifer has some commentary on the communication theory introduction from Roberts. On page 1, people in the millennial generation are described as, quote, technologically sophisticated multitaskers, end quote. Are they capable of living up to this description? Because technology does some, if not most, of their thinking for them. Touché? If so, is this to their advantage or the disadvantage? I'm reminded once again, I did it again, of The Matrix Reloaded. Have we seen this sequel, right? A lot of people hate The Matrix sequels, but I think they're shockingly, surprisingly deep, even though the kind of action sequences maybe supersede some of the intellectuality, and there are other aesthetic choices that are going on that they're perhaps questionable. Nope, don't need you, technology. Don't need you. I'm with an audience here, but I'm reminded of your question here. Are we capable? If so, is this to their advantage or disadvantage? This idea of we need technology because we've institutionalized technology, right? We made it commonplace. So this is what they mean by you've made your bed, now lay in it. Did I say that right? Now where are you at? I need the series of the world or whatever to comment, to correct me. And I just did it right there, right? Autocorrect. Oh my gosh. Little clip art paperclip dude in Word. Like we've built all these things to quote unquote help us, And yeah, sometimes it does make us more feeble. Like, can I spell those words the same if I'm always counting on Word to identify and correct my spelling for me, right? This is give and take, and this is a key term, key phrase that I've been. It's our through line in week 2. Causality, right? It's cause and effect. Because we do some things, because we innovate in some ways, because we add new technologies, the effect is, we become more dependent on these technologies, right? These are we're, as Kenneth Burke would say, we are symbol users and we are symbol used. No matter the technology, cars, right? Well, what would people say in a time before automobiles and so on? What do people say now, right? What is it? People that live in highly congested areas with immense means of public transportation, right? Especially non-automobile based. They critique the way that everyone lives kind of outside of those cosmopolitan areas. And you know what? You get out, you get into the red state of America, you've got to travel distances, and most of the time you're doing it independently. And it's complicated, right? It has effects too. We know this. All right. So also there's a matter of soft skills versus hard skills, right? Is it profitable? Is another question. So we can think about that. Question on Hall's encoding and decoding. Number one on here. I don't know. It's the next question. Are encoding and decoding terms that describe the understanding of messages between the sender and receiver? Yes. Are the decoders always those receiving the message and encoders always the senders? Yes. But as we remember, Public Speaking 101, the communication process, communication model, however it's defined, that whether we're sending or receiving information, we're doing it simultaneously. So we're always simultaneously sending and receiving. When I'm in a large classroom and students start to check out, maybe you have been talking too long, or it's, they're hungry, or what a plethora of excuse making, really. Even if it's a kind of formal lecture, and I really don't do that many formal lectures, they're sending me just as much information, right? They're letting me know that time's up, right? Or something. So yeah, decoders are receiving. We can absolutely think about it in that same language. All right, from chapter 8 of the Communication Theory Millennial Popular Culture book. Chapter 8 is Understanding Stuart Hall's Encoding Decoding Model. According to the text, Hall, quote, proposes that mediated messages like those produced by and for TV are strategically and purposefully encoded, which is not at all hard to believe, right? Many things are considered and accounted for in the encoding process. Is noise or interference one of the things accounted for? If so, how? That's interesting. All right, so in the communication process, which we just were describing, sender sends a message that travels along a channel to a receiver. Receiver decodes the message, right? Encoder, decoder decodes the message. Message, according to Hall's model, could be the dominant understanding of it, a negotiated interpretation of it, or perhaps a rejection, an outright rejection of that message, an oppositional message, if you will. And so even that opposition itself is part of that process of the feedback that gets disrupted or interrupted. And that disruption mechanism is what we refer to as interference or noise. So you're just using the terminology perfectly that describes the communication model. And that disruption can result in miscommunication or oppositional communication, right? Opposing the message, in other words. I reject your premise, or on the following grounds, or what have you. And so, yeah, I think you're interpreting this accurately. Ali Shaikh comments at the very end of the chapter, quote, we can discern the good from the bad. We can discern the good and bad from the show, Breaking Bad, and influence or change the issues of the paratext, end quote. She was referring to Breaking Bad, but it could easily be applied to any other show on television. Do you think enough of society realizes this aspect of television consumption to actually do so? Influence or change issues? Perhaps this supports the importance of classes, such as Calm 2113. I couldn't have said it better myself, right? We're capable of decoding or opposing, these texts. These texts they're so smart, they're so savvy, they're so well written that they have strong intents. They have built-in sub-critiques that they're making or multi-layered stories that they are telling. But sometimes we have to be careful and cautious, or perhaps more often than not, we should be, of what the message is, or messages, plural. And that's one of the fun things about art, and this is where you get into a really rich artistic text, is that it's open for multiple interpretations. And that's why semiotics, study of signs and symbols, is significant, right? Because this helps us recognize that signs are used in different ways. And we've talked about signs lie to us, as Berger writes, and we read and discuss in week 3 of the course. A great stopping point, a fantastic round of questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else we come up with and what else we have time for in Calm 2113, Media Culture and Social Influence. Thank you for listening.